My spouse, he's an alcoholic. I would say, why don't you stop? Why would you drink and get sick, right? So for me, it was like, that's what I do. I just control things. It make me feel that now I have a sense of the safety. I don't lose my serenity. I don't lose my emotional sobriety, they call it. Today, I know those signs. Whenever I think of something and I start having a pit in my stomach, I said, this is not of my higher power. When I look into me, that's why today my heart is so wide open and loving to the addict, loving to each person.
Hello and welcome to 12 Steps and 12 Questions. My name is Silvio and I'm an addict. This pod is full of personal and inspirational stories of recovery from addiction. And in every episode, I'll ask each guest the same 12 questions about their life, addiction, and recovery. Quick warning, there will be some graphic descriptions and a healthy amount of swearing. For this episode, please welcome Gina. Hi, spiritual seekers. Welcome to this new episode of 12 Steps and 12 Questions. Today, we're doing something a bit interesting. Our guest is in two fellowships, Anon and ACA, which stands for Adult Children of Alcoholics. This should be fun. Gina, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi. My name is Gina, and I started Al-Anon in 2017, and I've been going to a couple of meetings in person, juggling children and work and stuff like that. I've been to a couple of meetings, and after that, I don't go anymore. And then during the pandemic, 2020, that's when I hit a bottom again in Al-Anon, trying to control everything, of course. I started going into Al-Anon meetings on Zoom. While I'm sitting in the meetings in Al-Anon, I'm hearing a couple of things, and all I identify was ACA. So after I did the steps in Al-Anon, I did the tradition in Al-Anon and the concept with a sponsor in Al-Anon. My heart was still not settled. I didn't find the real recovery because there's that thing. And I think that's one of the reasons people don't go to Al-Anon or don't go to therapy. It's like, I don't want the therapy to be digging my past in my life, my childhood. It's just woo-woo to me. So then ACA, when I hear those things, I'm like, I don't want to identify to ACA. I don't want to identify to ACA. Then slowly, I keep going to Al-Anon meetings with ACA. We're going to read in the Survival to Recovery. That's one of the Al-Anon literature, that approved literature. And those stories in Al-Anon really convicted me that I need to go deeper in ACA. So today I identify as Al-Anon, ACA.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That is great. Thank you, Gina. Let's get to the first question that I ask every guest on this podcast. And this dovetails wonderfully with ACA, of course, which is, Gina, did you have any adverse childhood experiences?
Gosh, I still uncovering adverse childhood thing for me would be, I was born in Haiti, very poor. And I came with that little spirit of mine that I want to take the world. So that's one of the things that was adverse, because I can remember my mother telling me, you act too quick to cut people off, or They will call me to take care of business. Like my little brother, I had to control everything. That I have that little spirit of the grown up, of an adult. If she said no to something, I let it be. I'm not gonna be the kid who's going towards danger. So it feels like I have a great amount of control. That to me, that's what I discover in ACA and Al-Anon. That is my adverse thing. I came with it, and it was really battle in my childhood. I remember I was 8 years old, and I was saying certain things to my mother, and I remember she's like, "Shh, no, you shouldn't say those things. They like too advanced. Like too much for a little kid to see and view and sense." There was a lot of alcoholic around me. There was something, but personally in my body, it was like, those are things that I can control around me for me to feel better and to be safe. Um,
How old were you when you came over to the United States? Is that where you went from Haiti?
from Haiti, I went to Canada. And then I was 17 when I come to Canada. I am a Canadian citizen, and I moved to the US after I graduated school.
It was a bit of a culture shock from Haiti to Canada. A bit of a
Absolutely.
temperature drop as well, I'd imagine.
Yes. It was shocking, super cold in Montreal. But that's where my dad used to live. And so then yeah, after Canada, I moved to Los Angeles, where the temperature is much warmer. Yeah, I'm here in Los Angeles for 20 something years.
And how did you experience this move? Were you just terrified of it, or when we speak of adverse childhood experiences, how did it adversely affect you?
Oh yeah, it was emotionally, it was terrible. 17 years old, I moved into a big country. I left my mom behind because my mom and my dad separated. They never been married. That's one of the things that always, I felt to me was something that is, I got to make my mom feel better. And so my mom stayed behind. I moved in here with my big brother. So we were living on ourselves at 17. My dad decided to move in the US. So when he sponsored us, we live in Canada, and then he's still living in New York. He will be coming back and forth to see us, but we were still 17. Coming from Haiti, here we are. We were there. So that was a childhood with first.
Yeah, absolutely. Take us a bit back just for a second to Haiti. What was that like growing up there? It sounds idyllic, but it might not have been.
Not really. Um, Actually, the biggest thing that happened while I was in Haiti, when I turned 17, I think it was this exact same year that Duvalier left the country. So I already saw the country in turmoil. I already see
Right.
fear around me because the adults were talking a whole bunch of things. And to me, the most thing is just like I was saying, I had that spirit of a grown up, so I was absorbing all the fear around me. I can see the grown ups are talking, but they cannot talk too loud. So then fear. It's just fear. And then when Duvalier left the country in February 87, I believe, I turned 17 in April. So, yeah. And the November after that year is the book end, moved to Canada.
Right, absolutely. Now, here you are, you're a 17-year-old Haitian who has moved to Montreal. It's very cold. You live there with your brother. Your dad is present and not present. He's in and out, so to speak. Our question two is what did the moment you first got hooked, or the fun times, what did that look like? Now, when we're talking about a behavior rather than a substance, right, we might have to adapt the question a little bit. But at some point, a behavior came into your life, Gina, that changed the way you felt and did something for you that you couldn't do for yourself. What was this behavior and how did this come about?
Let's see if I understand your question well. When did I discover the behavior was a problem for me?
When I look at my own addiction as an alcoholic, as an addict, I remember the times when I first started using maybe weed or hash, or when I first started drinking, and what that did for me, right? This is the moment that we're talking about. What was this behavior, or what was it for you, and how did it make you feel, and maybe provide a solution that you didn't have?
Oh yeah, it provided us a sense of control. I had control, and I can make life better for me, for everybody else around me. Like I would say, my spouse, he's an alcoholic. I would say, why don't you stop? You just stop. I don't understand. Why would you drink and get sick, right? So for me, it was like, that's what I do. I just control things. It make me feel that now I have a sense of the safety or something, right? The illusion of life. You get married, you get a nice, beautiful man, and you make life like in Hallmark movies,
Okay.
right? And
Hallmark
yeah,
movies. Yeah.
and I
Okay.
had
Cool.
no concept what alcoholism was, right? Because in Haiti, people drink.
Yeah.
It was fun time for people to drink. The behavior of me behaving, that's what I thought. It's easy. I will just say no. I would just tell you you cannot drink, and you wouldn't drink. Or maybe I would not let you go to the store. Or I would be right there and tell you, hey, I'm gonna be your little pet, so you can't drink. And that's the sense of control. It was really, really high until I realized who's taking care of Gina. Right? All those things that I was doing is for me to feel safe, right? I want to feel safe. I'm controlling everybody around me. My life should be looking like that, safe, but it wasn't safe because my emotional dysregulation become a burden to other people. When I'm constantly nagging at you, not drinking and whatever, that give me a sense of control. It give me a sense like today, after I did the step, I realized that give me a sense of really petty the other person. A sense of disrespect to the person where I thought I was in control. Um, it took me a long time to let that go, though.
Now, let's rewind just a little bit. You were 17 and in Montreal, so you met someone there, and that person turned out to be an alcoholic. Am I getting this right?
No, actually, I didn't. I met my spouse in California. I met my spouse in California late in life. I was almost 30. I was 31. I decided I'm gonna move to LA. I didn't know why. I just wanted to be there. I wanted the heat, the warm weather and everything. So that's where I met my spouse. So again, it was like I have so much control of my whole life. I wasn't sleeping around. I just wasn't that girl. So how can I marry an alcoholic? So that part that's what blew me off. Then when I moved here, I was 31 and I met that person in California. I didn't know. I just couldn't know. The person will drink and the person will go gambling. The person will do this and that. And that the relationship was taking a toll. Like, we see each other after 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes max. Pick up a fight, like nonsense. The person got to leave, right? Because they have
Mm.
the addiction. They need to go. They need to drive somewhere to go gambling. They need to go smoke their cigarette, or they need to go drink, because here I am. I'm super controlling. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any of those things. The 2 times
Mhm.
I get offered drugs, I said no. I was like, no, I'm 31 years old. I'm not gonna start doing this right now. How embarrassing to go to end up in the hospital. That's my thinking. I had that control thinking, right?
Mhm.
Then for me,
Mm.
when we pick up a fight, I couldn't understand why we were picking a fight. It was
Mhm.
later in
Mhm.
life that I understood that these were the reason, right? If I am here, I'm very measured, so the person cannot have fun or the way they used to have fun. So yeah,
It's interesting, this, isn't it? That you are this, I'm using your words, you're this really controlled person. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't sleep around, so, you are very straight,
oh
shall
yeah,
we say, for lack of a better word, maybe
yes,
very contained by the sound of it. And then you meet this person, and am I getting this right? Did you not understand right away that he was an alcoholic, or that did you become an alcoholic? How did that plan out? And how, at some point, you must have then kind of said to yourself, and I think you said this already, haven't you? Oh my God, how did this happen? I'm so controlled, and yet I'm marrying an alcoholic. So there's a big contradiction there, right?
yes, big contradiction. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but again, that's why ACA step up in my life, and I understood that was my question. Um, again, it's at childhood, right? In Haiti at 2 p.m., the rich people done working is drinking party. We go to the beach. That's what we do. That's what the adult do, right?
Mm.
And that's what men do. Here I am. I met a
Mm-hmm.
European guy. All of a sudden, there's wine with food. That's a rich guy. That's a rich, rich guy. There's wine at home. We drink. People drinking, right? If I take a glass, my heart starts spinning. I stop. I don't
Mm.
want that. I don't like that feeling of my head spinning, right? But the other people having fun. They having fun. I thought alcohol make people have fun. Then that's how it goes.
Mm.
I would even offer him drinks. He will be like, I don't want to drink. I'm not drinking. I'm like, oh, just one 4th of July. Why not having some, little bit of something? I had no concept. But the other person didn't want to admit they were alcoholic either, right? They were trying to white knuckle, and they still white knuckle in it until now. There was no going to AA or
Mm.
anything recovery. That's their choice. But for me, I did not
Mm.
understand. It took me a long time until I went to therapy.
Mm.
Uh, that I was talking. When I was talking, I was telling you what happened. I offered them wine, and they decided to go on the street, like making a fool of themselves and all this kind of stuff. And then she was looking at me. She's like, "You need to go to Al-Anon." Said, "You need to go to Al-Anon," and I'm like, "I'm paying you. I'm in beautiful Los Angeles. I can have so many therapists. I don't want to pay you to tell me to go to somewhere and sitting with all those woo-woo people." It didn't make any sense to me. Then I was like I was saying earlier to you, I choose a therapist who goes to church because I go to church. I meet this man in church. I put everything was very measured and controlled. How does that happen? Right? How? How
Mm.
But it does happen when I step into ACA. That's why I understood alcoholism
Mm.
that I know in my country of origin. That's not what it is. And then now I start understanding, and I did my amen in Al-Anon, and knowing that I can't control somebody who has a disease. And when I understood it is more of a disease than the person trying to cope with the alcohol, that's where I'm like, wow, I couldn't control any of that. And today, my thing is what I was a great contributor because I be black or white. I am a black or white. Today, I'm trying to live in the gray. And my sponsor keep telling me God is in the gray area.
No, lovely. This is really amazing. God is in the grey area. It's so interesting, of course, because I live very much in a black and white world, and my God has to just be white or black. It doesn't matter with which one it is, but it can only be one or the other. Whichever is sober, that's the one. It's very on or off, 0 or 1. It's very binary. In as an alcoholic, as an addict, of course, it's so different with other behaviors and in other fellowships. This was really great. Thank you, Gina. Our question 3 is, what were your worst consequences? And finally, your rock bottom that took you into Al-Anon.
The worst consequence was when my spouse really telling me that I have anger management problem. And I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, I was not angry. I never want to hear about this word angry, right? But I would be imposing myself and probably like, higher gesture, speaking louder, right? Because I want you to understand you can drink while you're drinking, right? So I do remember that word. That word was my word that took me really quickly. And I keep repeating. I'm like, how can he say that? I am doing all those things to help him, not drinking, not making a fool out of himself, or, I always have that fear that he may go out and gamble our savings, right? So I am vigilant. I am hyper vigilant. I'm looking at everything. I want to watch everything. And I have a mother who's on the other side of the country in Canada, 3,000 miles away, who will be like, oh, you need to look for this, or you need to look for that. You need to look for this. So that was my bottom. Today, I don't do that anymore. Today, when I start the steps in Al-Anon, I surrender. I said, oh, that's called a financial insecurity for me. I surrender that. Anything that is coming adverse to me today, I surrender because that is my bottom. Today, I don't use anger anymore to convince.
Absolutely. Let's stay though back in the madness for just a little bit longer before we come to what is today and the beauty of today, of course. Is it a bit too simplistic for me to say that control is your drug of choice, so to speak?
Absolutely not. It's totally what drove me, and may continue to drive me. Control drove me into Al-Anon. But under the control, I learned the fear. In step 4, all the control that I thought I wanted to put in place, it's something to provide safety for me. And in my delusion mind, if I feel safe, I am in security. At the end of the steps, I don't recall what step I was in. Probably I've done the 12th step or something like that. It dawned on me one night that my spouse was traveling with the children. And I was talking with my mother on the phone, and she kept telling me, oh my God, when you go home, make sure you double check the door, lock the door, make everything safe because your husband is not there. And it dawned on me that my whole life I'm looking for a man to keep me safe. I'm looking for a man to keep me feel secure.
Yeah. And if that man then turns out to be an alcoholic, it's an absolute catastrophe, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And that man is the man who could be there. He would leave the back door open because he's not thinking. He's like, nobody's coming to our house. I'm like, no. If we're sitting at a distance that we can't see the back door, it needs to be locked. I spent days, many years, just keep repeating that. And that's when I said to my mother, I said, you think when the man is in the house, that's when I am safe? That's the first time I recognize. I'm like, oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's madness. So all the control is a fear of finding safety and security in this big wild world. Nothing else. Fear of dying, fear of falling, fear of this, fear of running out of money. I grew up in a poor country. I'm in a country where I can work and God give me a great mind. I become a scientist. I can do this. I make money, right? And then I'm like, now I need to control it because I work for all those things. I need to control it.
Yeah.
That's a fear. That's an immense fear. I still have fears today. A lot of fear. But I recognize them really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Gina. This is really, really enlightening, really interesting. Thank you. Question 4. At your worst, did you ever want to die? Did you consider suicide?
If you're enjoying this podcast and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe.
Absolutely not. That's absolutely not. And in ACA, I heard the word resilient and it really threw me off. I'm like, why do I need to be resilient? That's what you do. You come over here, you live life. No, I don't want to die. I want to control everything because I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of flying. No way. I'm not going to kill myself.
Of course, death is the ultimate letting go process, of course, right? And you know, and of course, there's so much fear attached to it. So obviously, this wasn't going to be the case. Yeah.
Listen, I have so much of a fear. I couldn't even comprehend how somebody will think of killing themselves because I'm like, well, I'm over here like fighting the universe to survive. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you, Gina. Now, question 5. What other methods did you try to get sober or maybe to change your behavior before finding the rooms? And while we're here, how do you define maybe sobriety or abstinence or something like that in Al-Anon, or don't you do that at all?
Oh, yeah. It calls serenity in Al-Anon. Keeping my serenity was before I grew up in the church. I know I needed to pray for the big things. But again, when I hit Al-Anon, that's when I realized I was praying to a God like a vending machine. Like, bam, like I'm going to put, 25 cents my prayer in the morning, in the afternoon, I get what I pray for. And miraculously enough, I think I have a God who always responds to my needs. When I enter Al-Anon, I sat back and was like, oh my God, that's the God I heard in the street. But in Al-Anon, I have a personal God. And I realized I had a God who has already painted my life for me. All those things that I was doing, it wasn't really me, right? I wouldn't be able to paint that canvas because I'm terrible in painting, by the way. And I had a vision one day that a nice canvas, a nice painting, like beautiful colors, beautiful thing, because I'm looking back and remember what happened in my life. And that's how I surrender in this program of Al-Anon, that there's no way I would be able to canvas this thing that's happening today. And then that's how I really go back to my serenity today. I don't lose my serenity. I don't lose my emotional sobriety, they call it. The emotional sobriety would be, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. It's happening. What can I do? And I had a pit in my stomach. Today, I know those signs. Whenever I think of something and I start having a pit in my stomach, I said, this is not of my higher power. This is not of God. And I have a sponsor who always reminding me, God don't live in the chaos. And I've been reading a thing about addicted to chaos. And I'm like, I do. Because in my family, that's how we relate to each other. Gossiping and fear. Have you heard? Oh my God. Oh, yeah. That's how we love each other. That's how we know we love each other. I always said, I know my parents love me a lot because my mom is fearful of whatever going to happen to me, right? Moved into a country, United States. I have no family. I have my own husband family in this country when I move out here. I didn't know anybody, not even a friend. So fearful every day. If I'm leaving the house, oh, did you double lock the door? That's love. Also, I learned that in ACA and Al-Anon.
Yeah. Interestingly, rings maybe a few bells too many at my end, I have to say, because I can really relate to this. In my family, it is continuously, everything is always full of fear. And if you don't do this, then that is going to happen. And heaven help that this would, we need to do everything for this not to happen. And there's a lot of drama that goes back and forth. And my mum will still call me sometimes at very odd, and, I'm not exactly a child, will call me at really odd times to just kind of say, if I'm okay, just want to know if I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be? And all these sort of things. So I can really relate to this. I've not for the first time I've thought whether I should maybe do a few meetings in ACA in particular, because this has been so big in my childhood as well. Just very quickly circling back to our question 5, did you try? Was there a moment before you came into Al-Anon? Was there ever a moment where you thought to yourself, do you know what? Me trying to control everything is the problem here. Maybe I want to stop doing that. Was there ever a moment like this, or not at all?
Yes. Now, if we talk before Al-Anon, I never thought of that.
Right. So not while you were So while you were still untreated, so to speak, you never thought of this. No.
Yeah. Absolutely not, because I did not understand. I had no idea it was a problem that I cannot solve. I just thought it was a behavior for me to correct. And that's where the control come in. All I knew is I'm correcting behaviors.
Right.
I'm correcting the behavior. And at some point, I become very disappointed of him, because I'm like, I don't understand why you cannot be a man of like I thought you should be. Yeah, never. But today, I am like, wow. There's no way I would be going back to that stage of correcting people. And that's why I look at myself today. My big thing is the control and the correction. Everything needs to be corrected. And that's why I don't have a good relationship with a lot of people. Right? I always said I don't have a lot of friends. I only have one good friend. But it's very measured. Everything is measured, right? Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I couldn't see any of that before ACA or Al-Anon. I wouldn't see any of that, because to me, I was helping him.
Yeah. You're doing good, aren't you? You're doing good. You're helping this man trying to overcome his alcoholism, his drinking problem. What could possibly be wrong? And it kind of, plays into this thing of becoming this martyr sort of person. I'm self-sacrificing and things.
Yeah. And that's what I supposed to do that. I had my mother's in my ears. That's why ACA come in. That's what you do. And I can remember my mom, if my dad or my dad come home drunk or something like that. Or she talk about a whole bunch of things like, oh yeah, where do you go? You blah blah blah, a whole bunch of stuff, right? Because in her mind it was like, more I talk, more I nag, more the person will change the behavior.
Yeah.
But Al-Anon taught me it's not a behavior to be corrected. Today I love my people. I love each person who they are. Today I can see you have that issue and I have this issue that I am in fear because I want to control you for me to feel good, to feel better.
Yeah.
If I am married to you, you behave in that way, it's where I look good, because my mom will ask me, how do you look today? I feel good.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. Now, our question 6. So this is, you've been introduced to the rooms of Al-Anon. You're starting to find your way a little bit around the program. Our question 6 is: did you struggle with the word God?
Yes and no. When I first go into the room, I struggle and my ego take a drop, because I'm like, how on earth? Well, listen, I'm very controlling, right? How do I control my life? I grew up in the church. I grew up in 3 religions. How those people over here gonna teach me about God? What sort of God are they talking about, right?
Right.
So that was my first thing. And I was fearful, of course, because I'm like, I don't want to be going to a different God that I knew, that I grew up with, right? But I didn't know the God that I know today, that I found in Al-Anon. I didn't know that God. So then that was my struggle. I felt like an imposter in Al-Anon. I feel like a hypocrite because I grew up in the church. How can I get there? How do I get there? Right? To go sit over here with those people who's saying any God, whatever God, the doorknob, the
Yeah.
group is your God. You know what I mean? When I have a very defined and constrained God that I grew up with. That was my thing. And but my therapist kept reminding me, you need to do the steps, right? If you do the step, of course you're gonna do step 1 to 3, all the way to 12. So you got to go on that step 3. And the principle of Al-Anon is really to be gentle with yourself and have a sponsor to shine the light for you. You read it, you calm down, and then really sit with the words. And then my sponsor said, okay, go one by one question after question, define your God, make a picture of your God and stuff like that. That was really, really helpful to me, because I break it down to a very little simplistic. And I can remember when I describe my God as somebody I like a really loving God that I can just climb on his lap and sit and feel all the warmth, like on a blanket, like being hugged, being loved on, being like the way I want it to be, after all, like warm, secure, safe, and all this kind of stuff. That was like mind-boggling for me, because I never did that exercise before.
You've just answered also our question 7, which is: how do you experience your higher power today? So you sit on its lap, it's warm, it's hugging.
Yes. Yes. Today, the way that I experience higher power is really, really calm. Every time my stomach starts churning, I start thinking, what should I do? I can see the vision in my head. I want to do something. And I'm like, no, come back to step 4. Whenever you want to do something ahead of higher power is manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's control. And it is fear. What am I fearing right now? And if I have to make a decision today, I honestly see them like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Right? Before I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even ask myself this question, because in the hypocrisy, you shouldn't live your life for yourself. You should live your life for other people. Today, I'm like, wait a minute. Let me see what's in it for me. It's
Yeah.
probably vain. I'm like, higher power, it's probably a vain thing, but what's in it for me? The honesty bring me to live a life of really serenity whenever
Mm-hmm.
the fear comes in. The fear come every day,
Mm-hmm.
But it took me few seconds now to come back to the base and be like, okay, what's in it for you, Gina? Well, whatever you want to do here, there's a little bit of manipulation in there. Why don't you trust your higher power? Take a breath, take a pause. I've been practicing pause a lot in the last
Yeah.
couple months.
Mm-hmm.
It is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I thought I need to talk, I need to tell you, what's going on. Like, I have to let you know, I have to convince you. I don't know. That's my thing. I was born this way. I have to explain my existence. That's when I step into the program, I was like, oh my God, I am just a lovable person created in the image of a higher power who loved me before I knew what love was. And I'm like, why am I running after love when I'm fearful? Why I'm scaring everybody away? I'm fearful, but I want them to give me love. I'm like, today I am love. I am the exact same thing that I was looking forward to get from other people. Today I
Right.
feel love. I feel God sitting in the bottom of my heart. Whenever fear is coming up, love just push it out, back out where the fear come up, because I'm like, what is this fear? Whatever I do is because of fear.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina. Thank you. Our question 8. Which parts of the steps were the most difficult for you?
Step one.
Hmm.
Oh, listen, powerless? Why?
Yeah.
I know, I couldn't understand. And I think that was the first step that was so hard. First, I didn't want to do the steps. I didn't want to be sitting in the program, right? Program, that seems too much for me.
Right.
Then my sponsor give me 2 or 3 pages with, like, and she said, I think she senses it was hard for me to
Mm-hmm.
admit that I was powerless. And my life was unmanageable. That word, unmanageable. I was like, no, you do not know who you're talking about. Me? I am very manageable. I get paid for it. I am a scientist. I'm going to explain it to you. Like, unmanageable. So, step one, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really interesting because when I thought of these questions, I never really considered, to be perfectly honest, that for all addicts, alcoholics, people in Al-Anon, or whatever your addiction affliction might be, the first step has always got to be the hardest because we just don't want to admit to it until we can't go on any longer. But nonetheless, I think it's a very good shout. Thank you so much, Gina. Our question 9. Which character defects give you most trouble?
The fear, and today that it manifested by my action.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, and action. I
Mm-hmm.
always been in action.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I never knew about awareness. Oh, I am aware. Today I am more aware of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like, oh, that's what acceptance is. Um, and action, I said, action is for my higher power.
Right.
Action is for my God. That's how I start pausing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if there's any little quick tip in Al-Anon, that's the only thing I can give to somebody. Pause. Just pause.
Amazing. Thank you. Number 10 is, what is the best thing recovery has given you?
Recovery has given me a relationship, a perspective in life that is so much more peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a recovery give me a sense of safety. It gives me a
Yeah.
sense of security. I'm not afraid of certain things anymore,
Mm.
to the point that I have to manipulate. I have to jump into action. I have to do this. I have to do that.
Yeah.
Recovery give me the sense of awareness. Is
Mm.
sitting in there. I can see when I'm disturbed, right? I feel
Yes.
disturbed and I'm like, oh, I'm disturbed. Oh, I am in fear. Okay, now what is the best next step, next action that I can do, or the step that I can do to bring me back to a sense of safety again,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that it's always going to come.
Yeah. And it's the safety and security that got you there in the first place. Your need for those
Exactly.
things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. Question 11. What would you say to a newcomer or someone wondering if they're an addict or in need of Al-Anon?
In the Al-Anon, yes. The newcomer, I would tell them to really listen.
Hmm.
Listen for the little things. Listen to the stories, and remain totally open to see what is in the other side. And a newcomer, I would always suggest them to do the step with a sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
because in the steps, in the literature, that's where I learned things. I spend my
Yeah.
life looking at other people without looking into me. When I look into me, that's why today my heart is so wide open and loving to the addict, loving to each person.
Mm-hmm.
Everything when I speak with my sponsor, she will tell me, love, do not dwell with fear. If I'm in fear, because I'm not in love. When I'm in love, I cannot be fearful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And our last question for today, our question 12. What do you want your higher power to say to you at the pearly gates when you die?
Well done.
Yay.
Well done. I was given a purpose, which I discovered not too long ago, that I discovered that I came with some purpose. I came with that bright shine spirit in me that today I
Mm,
reappropriate. And I don't help me to reappropriate that. Uh,
right.
then I would continue to do what I was given to do, what I was, the purpose that I had. I didn't know that I had a purpose to be of service, to be just loving, not correcting people,
Yeah.
just loving. What a gift. What a gift.
This is so wonderful. Thank you. You've been a real gift to me today, Gina. Thank you so much for your time and for your wonderful share today. You've really enlightened me with quite a few things about your journey and about Al-Anon in general. And it's been really, really great. Thank you for being so generous and for your time and for for you being my guest here today on 12 Steps and 12 Questions.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We've come to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed it and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe. While this pod is based on the 12-step recovery program, it's not officially affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. 12 Steps and 12 Questions is not substance or behavior specific, it's fully self-supporting and not-for-profit. And you know this next bit. It's not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, and it neither endorses nor opposes any causes.